What is up, my Squirtleites? It is I, your king, welcoming you back to Let's Play Destiny 2. Although you might notice this isn't actually an episode. No, I'm making this video to just explain a few things before we jump back into the swing of things with this game. The last episode, which premiered just a few weeks before the launch of Forsaken, ended on somewhat of a sour note, and the game has changed considerably since then, which is in turn going to have an effect on the way this Let's Play is structured. Because the thing is, there's a lot to go over. Not just the Forsaken campaign and some adventures and a few endgame activities. No. There's also a plethora of weapon quests, a ton of rotating and week-dependent activities. There's the Shattered Throne, the Other Side, the Menagerie, and, oh boy, the lore. Let's talk about that in detail for a moment. With the launch of Forsaken, Bungie severely improved the way the lore in this game is handled, adding a ton of lore books in-game for us to go over and read, and a lot of these add to the story. And yes, I'm going to be covering these as well, in their own separate and completely optional videos, but I'll be covering them nonetheless. I have tried to pay special mentions to the lore with great frequency all throughout this Let's Play thus far, and now that I have a gold mine on my hands, I am not going to pass that up. So there's all that, and I'll give you guys a nice, concise list of what to expect at the end of the video, but before that, let me cover a few more possible pieces of confusion. Firstly, we are going to be using a Warlock still, but for some of the really high-end solo content, I'll be deferring to my Hunter on my personal account. This is her. No, you need to say hi. Yeah, say hi, wave with your phone. There you go. This is her. She's decked out with all the tools I'll need to properly guide you guys through the stuff that even I have a very difficult time completing alone. And while I absolutely could take the time to prepare the Warlock I've been using in this Let's Play in the same way, I don't want to delay this Let's Play for yet another year. Secondly, to preserve my sanity, I'm going to be uploading these episodes once every other day. 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. That's it. No deviations. Videos aren't going to be tied to any specific days of the week, just one episode every other day. Thirdly, I will still be skipping a small handful of weapon quests, mostly pinnacle weapon quests, but also a couple of exotic weapon quests that I just flat out cannot do. There are a couple, specifically the likes of Malfeasance and Izanagi's Burden, but much like raids, I can't make everything in this game happen on my own, at least in any sort of timely manner. And lastly, unfortunately, we're not going to be jumping into the Forsaken campaign immediately. There's one last set of things from year one I still have to go over before we can proceed, and that of course would be the strikes. And keeping with the consistent theme of uploading one video of this type every single year, you'll be getting a special video this weekend just before Shadowkeep comes out. But I think that should be everything. Now, if you want a clear and concise list of everything going forward, I'm going to read that off now. If you don't care, then I'll see you all in the next one. First, we will be jumping into the Destiny 2 strikes. Then this will be followed by the Forsaken campaign. After this, we'll be going over the A Lawless Frontier lore book, which will then be followed by the Tangled Shore exploration and strikes. After this, we're going to jump into the Most Loyal lore book, then the Ace of Spades quest, followed then by the Cayde 6 related lore. After this, we'll then jump into the Ghost Stories lore book before getting our introduction to the Dreaming City. This will then be followed by the Awoken, Maricena, and Dreaming City lore books, respectively. After this, it's Dreaming City stuff. That's really all I can say about that. Following that will be the Prince Uldren lore, and then the Shattered Throne, which will also be followed by the Wish Ender quest. After that, we'll be going over the Adrifter's Gambit lore book. Then we'll jump into the Black Armory quest line, which will of course then be followed by the Black Armory lore book, which will then in turn be followed by the Last Word quest and the Man with No Name lore book. After this, we'll be jumping into the Allegiance quest and the Warlock Honor and Stolen Intelligence lore, followed by the Reckoning, then the Egdesis lore, which will then be followed by the Invitations of the Nine. After this, we'll be jumping into the Dust lore book, the For Every Rose a Thorn lore book, and the Letters from a Renegade lore book, before finally ending off this lore extravaganza with the Book of Unmaking lore. Once that is all done, we can finally jump into the Menagerie quest line, which will then be followed by the Confessions lore book. After that will be the Lumina quest line and the Nothing Ends lore book. Then we're going to be jumping on into the Tribute Hall and the quest associated with that, before finally ending off with one lore extravaganza in the Chronicon lore, Books of Sorrow lore, and the Truth to Power lore. So, with all of that said, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video very, very much, and I will see you all in the next one.